To welcome you to May's Community of Practice on collaborative talent development, and in particular to a session that we're very excited about, which centres on our initiative around enterprise faculty. So we'll move on to the agenda, and if you've been to our community of practice before, you'll know that we start on time and finish on time. So next, Niamh. So just to touch lightly on the agenda, a short welcome, then I will pass over to Niamh, who's our educational developer here at the Enterprise Academy and very ably leads the entire Enterprise Faculty Initiative on our behalf. Then Niamh will hand over to Derek Collins, who we were delighted to work with in the context of the Huawei Enterprise Challenge during semester 1 of last year, and we've got some exciting news to share on that front as well. Then on to Dr. Ciarán O'Carroll, our colleague from the business faculty, who led that initiative in conjunction with Dr. Leslie Murphy, and then we'll close with Peter Lynch, who Peter will talk about his approach to working with enterprise faculty and growing that base from within the Enterprise Academy and across our schools and faculties. We will, of course, move on to Q&A thereafter. So a little bit about the Enterprise Academy, and I think you probably know us as an audience by now, but we are an initiative funded under the Human Capital Initiative Pillar 3, and that's all around meeting priority and emerging skill needs and doing that in an agile way. So the Academy itself is a multidisciplinary business unit, and we are effectively adopting an innovative and agile approach to collaborative talent development across the university. So 3 main pillars in terms of our approach. One is collaboration and co-creation with our enterprise partners. The second there, I've mentioned already, but that's meeting priority and emerging skills needs on an ongoing basis. And then thirdly, and really central to our discussion of today, is working to enhance enterprise engagement across all of our schools and faculties, and that underpins our practice-based and career-focused approach here at TU Dublin. So just a little bit more in terms of our next slide there, Niamh. In terms of our model, and you'll see here that our learner is central to everything that we do at TU Dublin. But importantly, in terms of the function of the Enterprise Academy, that is essentially to simplify and help partners navigate across our relatively complex ecosystem. So the image on the left-hand side is our 5 faculties and our 25 schools. And increasingly what we're seeing in terms of the needs being expressed by our enterprise partners is that there's not a single discipline that they're looking to build solutions around. Increasingly, the enterprise needs, both social and commercial enterprise, are multidisciplinary, and therefore there's an important role for us to play in helping them navigate the ecosystem. Other features of that system clearly are enterprise partners on the right-hand side, and you'll see Huawei and others feature. But really importantly, we're closely aligned with the business support agencies in terms of the scaffolding that they provide to enterprises, again, both social and commercial, in their upskilling, reskilling and new skilling remit. And again, in the current context, in terms of tariff changes, competitiveness, the impact of AI, etc., those needs are growing. Moving on, Niamh. Just some examples of the programs that the Enterprise Academy has won and brokered in conjunction with our colleagues across schools and faculties. I'll pick up on some of the examples here. Our postgraduate diploma in sports analytics, technology and innovation has just been extended with a master's track. So we're currently recruiting the 2nd year of that, and that's in conjunction with our partners in Digital SkillNet but also the IDA-backed Sports Tech Ireland cluster. Our certificate in food entrepreneurship with SuperValue and 31 Leos. We were delighted to celebrate the first completion of that programme just a month ago in Grangegorman. Excuse me. A range of programmes, again, in that emerging and critical skills space, programme for Intel 3D modelling and applied interactive game technologies, our BA in screen industry practice, and also the portfolio preparation module and passport to production within that. Significant numbers from our creative and cultural sector going through those all-important programmes. Our certificate in applied procurement management with BT Sourced. We had a national rollout. Now we have a global rollout across 3 continents with all that involves, but very specifically, again, drawing on the expertise of the school there. Our postgraduate certificate in medical device regulation in conjunction with SGS. Again, hundreds of individuals across Ireland being upskilled in that sector, and a very important sector it is too. Our certificate in product management in conjunction with colleagues in GBS, and more. Just a specific to draw your attention to something that makes us unique here at the Enterprise Academy. It's the sectoral approach that we take. So we have 4 key sector leaders. They're academics in their own right, but also they bring an entrepreneurial and a design mindset to the task of co-design with our partners. Moving on then, and I will draw this to a close in terms of what we do and how we do it. So 3 main pillars that we have. Some of the programs I've described are within these pillars. Program co-design, where we sit down and effectively design a solution that fits either an organizational, a sectoral, or a function-specific need. And the example that I gave of sports tech is one such. Collaborative provision, we have a growing array of those whereby we recognise and accredit offerings that are already out there in industry, but we're also scaffolding those with some technical supports and some disciplinary supports within schools. And last but not least, and what brings us to today, is our enterprise faculty engagement. And that's where we're effectively bridging learners and enterprise faculty to enhance that educational experience, drive innovation within the pedagogy in terms of that challenge-based approach. And that then also, really importantly, and what we're going to hear all about today, is addressing real-world challenges through that enterprise engagement. So over to Niamh. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. As you've mentioned, the enterprise faculty connects industry experts and organisations with academic teams across the university. And what we're trying to do is broker real-world learning experiences for students, and these might include guest lectures, masterclasses, site visits, panel discussions, sponsored projects, competitions, and then larger scale enterprise challenges. And then industry partners can also support academic quality through advisory boards and programme design. And Claire mentioned that our senior engagement managers are working with enterprise partners, and we started to register opportunities to connect with organisations and professionals. And these collaborations take many forms, some of which I've mentioned. And we've set up a repository to record and grow this network. And that's available on the TU Dublin SharePoint Enterprise Faculty. And maybe my colleague Mary might share that link in the chat so people can have a look. And then do please feel free to post questions, and we'll come back to them then at the end of the session as well. So through the repository, we want to make it easy to engage with enterprise faculty collaborators. And from the site, you can browse opportunities from the guest lecturing, the panel members, advisory board contributors, the projects, the challenges, and then connect with the collaborator through our introduction. And then after the engagement has taken place, we ask our colleagues maybe to fill in a form, and then we'll publish it as a success story on the repository as well. So we can spread the word and share our work and the great work of our students as well. So we've published collaboration opportunities on the site. For example, the Celiac Society of Ireland are looking for digital media or digital marketing students to work on a video content project. We've gathered then guest speakers, including content specialist Marie Kelly. She's got over 25 years editorial experience with the Irish Times, Sunday Times, Business Post, and more. Polly Steele, who's an award-winning filmmaker with a focus on female voices and ethical storytelling. Mary Cronin, who has expertise in circular economy, ESG, circular design thinking, and energy innovation. David Mullins, he's Global Head of Design at Citco Group, and he's got a background in design thinking, product development, and go-to-market strategies. Dave Egan, who's Product Marketing Director at Infineon Technologies, and he has expertise in IoT, digital transformation, change management, and sustainable semiconductors. Then Jeff Moran, he's Learning and Performance Business Partner at Vodafone with expertise in Gen AI, strategic communications, HR, and commercial strategy. And then we've matched new opportunities with Matthew Ciarán. He's creative director, and we're working with the School of Media on expanding his portfolio of engagements. And then Kate Gunning, we've matched with the MBA in Life Sciences leadership at the Graduate School of Business. And what we'll do is just mark those opportunities as reserved once we've brokered that introduction. And then you can also share opportunities you come across if they don't suit your own program or teaching and learning. You just download a registration form and email it back to us, and we can share it across the university. In addition to publishing opportunities, we're collating all these great success stories. And I can see lots of examples on the screen, like the Dulux Marketing Plan Challenge, where marketing management students worked with Dr. D. Duffy to develop and present marketing plans to the Dulux team at their headquarters. I can see the Travelport Enterprise Challenge. It was a 2-day innovation sprint with students from 6 schools pitching ideas to Travelport experts. Tomas Kelly, a DIT alumni, contributes annually with final year students in surveying and construction innovation in Bolton Street. And he explains that it's a mutually beneficial experience, and he can keep up to date with what's happening on the programme and what students are learning. I can see students from the School of Business Technology, Retail and Supply Chain who were invited to engage with Fashion Revolution Week through an assignment focused on ethical and sustainable fashion. The Glanua Enterprise Challenge, it's a 1-day event for mechanical engineering students led by Dr. Tom Tracy and supported by Head of Discipline, Dr. Kevin Delaney, previously of the Enterprise faculty team at the Enterprise Academy. I can see some lovely images from creative agency Bolt, who work with creative digital media students in Blanchardstown, and they support lots of engagements, and led by Dr. Helen Williams. Professional project, 3rd-year students enjoy site visits to Bolt, then masterclasses delivered on campus. Both sponsor work placements, and they also sponsor then an award to final year students at the Graduate Showcase. I can see students collaborating with Change Clothes via Jean Noonan and Michelle Lawler from TU Dublin's School of Art and Design. Culminating in an exhibition at the Grange Corman campus. And SGS and TU Dublin School of Accounting, Economics and Finance are currently collaborating on the design and development of a postgraduate modules at level 9 in ESG regulation, disclosure and reporting. And then finally, we've worked on an Enterprise Challenge free elective module, which may be of interest to schools undergoing programmatic review with that UEM focused elective option for students and learners. So lots of great success stories to check out on the SharePoint site. Then, in addition to publishing success stories internally on our SharePoint site, we'll also publish the stories on our public-facing website on the TU Dublin website. And Mary, you might pop in the chat then if people wanted to check out the Enterprise Faculty public-facing website. And we publish the success stories on social channels as well. And that way the collaborator is recognised along with the work of the programme teams and the learners. And then collaborators can also register their interest to participate from the public-facing website. My colleague Peter is going to have a chat about a great collaboration with Eddie O'Sullivan on the sports technology PGDIP. Then a standout collaboration that Claire alluded to this year was involving over 170 students from the School of Marketing and Entrepreneurship, the School of Management, People and Operations, and EM Normandy Business School. So led by Dr. Leslie Murphy and Dr. Ciarán O'Carroll, student teams developed sustainable energy business cases in response to a Huawei challenge. And this initiative brought together lots of teams throughout the university, with students directly engaging with Huawei experts. And then plans are in place to expand the challenge next year. And we've posted an opportunity again on the SharePoint if people would like to find out more about that. And Derek Collins, Huawei's Director of Research, Collaboration and Innovation, and Dr. Ciarán O'Carroll will share some insights from the collaboration. So I am now going to hand over to Derek, who's going to share perspectives from Huawei. And Derek, I'll continue to share here if you want to just prompt me to keep moving. So welcome, Derek, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, thank you, Niamh and Peter and Claire for the invitation. And I guess you've covered it quite well and set the scene from a Huawei Ireland perspective. So my name is Derek Collins, and I work in the collaboration world of Huawei Ireland Research Centre. So I just go through a few presentation slides on who we are for people who do not know and have never heard of Huawei. And we're a very, let's just say we're a large global organization. We have over 200,000 employees, but most importantly for me is about 54% of that number are involved in R&D, which is, which is quite strategic. It's quite interesting against our peers to have so many people in R&D, and it allows us to do what we do from a research perspective. We're across about 170 countries, and we serve, I guess, through various solutions and networks, about 3 billion people. So Huawei on a page, it's, we are a large organization, but we're quite a simple organization from a structure perspective. Our role is to distribute information, the transmission of information, and process and store that information. And with ecosystems and partners, we serve 3 market units: customers, mobile carriers predominantly, and enterprises, which are large corporations with a whole plethora of solutions. And we also have a digital power organization as well, like a sister organization that's looking at green energy, which is quite apt for today's talk. Thank you. So from an R&D perspective, we have invested roughly in the last 10 years, we have roughly about $140 billion in the last 10 years. And last year alone, we invested about 20% of our revenue. So that puts us in the top 6 of global R&D investments for the last few years, with the likes of Meta, IBM, Microsoft, Alphabet, etc. So, it drives patent activity, it drives licenses, and it drives a lot of interaction with labs. Yeah, we gather accolades for our sustainability efforts. Some of them are on the screen now, and it involves various programs, digital inclusion, various training academies, etc. So this is where I am right now. This is Huawei Ireland's Research Centre in Dublin. We're in this downtown city centre, and that's a nice looking photograph. This is our high-level org chart of our research team. We have different labs, different teams inside. We've about 192 in total. I counted them yesterday, and we've about 33% of our people will carry a PhD, which is great. And we've about 35 nationalities. Don't worry too much about what's in the boxes, but we're mostly a software research center, anything from networks to software trustworthy lab, and we have a brand new game rendering team which we are actively hiring for. So it's interesting to see gamers joining us, which bring a new energy, I guess, to research. It's a photograph of our Cork office, actually, but okay. So we are being pushed by various trends that are driving the way we innovate and look at sustainability. So lots of energy trends over the years of various revolutions and industry revolutions, but the IT revolution from microprocessors right up to today to generative AI, bringing that intelligent world together is really keeping us on our toes. And other trends. Next slide, Niamh. So an AI trend. If you look at AI back in the in the 1940s and 50s, and from neural networks right up to today with ChatGPT and OpenAI and DeepSeek Release 1, that caught the world by surprise recently, and look at the various artificial narrow intelligence, often regarded as weak AI, which is an interesting term because it's very determined, it's very purpose-driven, and then beyond. And how do machines execute tasks based on human set rules? So this is an interesting space for us. It's kind of driving everything we do from a research charter direction, which will have an impact on our sustainability attributes. Another trend is green ICT. I guess why we have these challenges, and a few samples of these trends is like, one is low carbon power generation, and can we get a share of clean energy and power generation? So in 2030, could that be 68%, and could it ever be 91% in 2050? So these are various studies that we've taken with various partners. And electrical energy consumption, could a share of electricity in total energy consumption be 29% in 2030 or 51% in 2050? So I mean, it's quite a hot topic, lots of debate and opinions in this world, but it's definitely keeping us focused on a low carbon and a green future perspective. Another trend is looking at various governments and organizations around the world going from a consensus to action, and low carbon power generation as an example. And from between 2023 and 2030, could PV photovoltaic install capacity rise to 38%? And ESS, energy storage systems, could it go from 96 gigawatts to 516 gigawatts between now and 2030? Another trend is mobility of electrification, EV cars, the penetration, could that get up to 60% by 2030? And could the number of chargers exceed 130 million by 2030? I know there's a lot of pressure, a lot of government activity, but it might stimulate some idea, debate, etc. And data centers, very in vogue, very controversial, lots of talk in the press and various debates about grid and grid pressure. But I think the ICT industry, people like ourselves, there's a big onus on us to get carbon emissions down from data centers and look at carbon emissions from mobile phone networks. So large sustainability targets. So all of those trends drive, I guess, our innovation. And our innovation puts huge pressure on us to look at various attributes of research. So mathematics, what is the future of mathematics? The mathematics underpinning all what we do is being tested right now, from Boolean algebra to Nyquist sampling theorems, and chemistry and material science. What is the future of the battery? How can we get batteries lighter, cheaper? How can we get fast charging battery right down at a physics level, at a molecular level, and all the time keeping standards high and filing patents. So as I said, 20% of our revenue, it drives our innovation. We balance between vision, hypothesis, merge with business needs and customer needs, and that drives us to think in theoretical breakthroughs, technology innovation, and again driving system engineering and technology planning standards. So finding that balance between customer needs and tech innovation drives. So this research world this is our research world on one page, driving our direction and charter. So we do lots of collaboration with universities around the world and around Ireland, and it's great to be involved with TU Dublin. We've about 300 university partnerships around the world, lots of projects, joint labs, cooperation projects, researching, cooperation with sponsorship angles and challenges and awards. We have a large joint lab, as an example, in the University of Limerick, with one of the Research Ireland Centres, LIRO, as an example of a joint lab where we're looking at the future of software, as an example. So all of that and some of the things in the world of sustainability to prompt some ideas and debate about what we could do. And we have a very overarching sustainability strategy to create social value, tech for all, reliability, environment, and harmony. So they are just very large pillars where we try and gather our sustainability programs. So there's lots and lots of different things that we have done and that we are doing, and we want to do more. So hopefully we can, through these challenges, we can stimulate new things that we have to do. So some of the examples is our Tech for All digital inclusion program that we've been doing for many, many years, looking at education, environment, health and development, and getting IT and tech to parts of the world where it's needed, and looking at the environment and protected species, etc. Looking at health and telemedicine and helping countries that don't have the penetration of broadband. There's still about 2 billion people in the world that don't have broadband or a mobile phone. Lots of education activities in schools. We've done a lot with schools in Ireland, as an example. We've done a coding program with the University of Limerick with secondary schools for girls for coding, women in tech, and access programs. And this was the sample of some of the work that's been done across Egypt and Ethiopia and Ghana, working with UNESCO and various government bodies. And the environment and tech for nature. About 13 projects across the world, across 11 countries. You see some of the photographs here from Brazil to China to Mauritius and Spain. We did have a project a few years ago in Cork with marine scientists looking at acoustic monitoring devices in the sea, monitoring marine life and dolphins and whales, etc. And again, from an environmental perspective, using technologies, and looking at protected area, about 58 protected areas across the world. Some examples here with Mexico, Norway, and China. And again, to try and stimulate some ideas of what we could do with technology with the environment. And as one example, looking at villages in Zambia where electricity is only available in about 4% of rural areas. So how do we help with smart classrooms, e-commerce, telemedicine, and using solar to help where there's no electricity, I guess. And again, as I said, protecting the environment. So we have a long pedigree and history of using our technology, going way, way back to 2003 up to today, in looking at how we how we protect the environment in a better way using our solutions. And you know, and one example is looking at our digital power organization and looking at solar storage and the whole intelligence around solar power as a major energy source. So hopefully this trend and driving into the world of solar will be a major step in our next sustainability program. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Derek. That was brilliant.
Which will stop,
it was really
sure.
great. I am going to hand over to Dr. Ciarán O'Carroll from the School of Marketing and Entrepreneurship, who's going to tell us a little bit more about the Huawei Business Sustainable Enterprise Challenge that ran last semester. So whenever you're ready, Ciarán.
Thanks very much, Niamh. Hi, Derek. Good to see you again. And I know my colleague, Dr. Leslie Murphy's on the call as well. And as the slide that Niamh showed you before, there is a lot of people put in a lot of work to making this collaboration a success as well. So like I already heard a bit of the introduction, some great insights from Derek. So I'm just going to share some maybe just some insights from the challenge that I think are relevant, particularly as we try and scale it up, repeat, tweak, etc. So some learnings from iteration number one. How about I frame it like that? And you can see some images there from the awards event, the award event we did at the end of it. So starting at the beginning, some of this will be fairly apparent, but I'll kind of go through it all. I mean, obviously, number one, the joint problem definition between ourselves and Huawei, academics, industry, Enterprise Academy was obviously vital to ensure that the challenge addressed a real urgent issue that we could also deliver a project on in semester one in that kind of relatively short time period, and to focus on that opportunity as Derek says. Well, Huawei have got this great opportunity. We know the opportunity around solar and sustainability and batteries is absolutely massive. It's an absolute game changer and while we know that from an industry perspective, but we can also link in academically to carbon action plan of what Ireland has to achieve in solar. And we have set solar targets across all industries, across all carbon budgets that we are not achieving. So there's a very strong kind of problem definition challenge case that worked both sides. These were third and fourth year students as well, thinking about what they were going to do next in the world. And this allowed us to kind of identify a real game-changing challenge for them that is definitely going to be very important for them in a series of roles or industries wherever they go to know about the energy transition and transformation that they could be a part of. So kind of insight number one was that co-creation piece based on a real relevant urgent challenge from both an industry and kind of country transformation perspective made it an academic exercise that felt really strong and tangible for everyone involved. And then taking that kind of and applying it in challenge-based learning, we had the strong business case, and that allowed us to make sure that the students, we could set it up in a way that we were going to ensure they were developing their critical thinking, their creativity, their teamwork, problem-solving skills, etc. This was a team-based challenge. They were going to have to be creative, not just from a solution perspective, but from a communication perspective as well. And they were going to have to use a lot of critical thinking. And I think in particular, knowing that they were going to share it with Huawei judges was very, very important. It wasn't just going to be academic assessors, though myself and Leslie, of course, absolutely did that. But they knew ultimately they were going to be presenting it to Huawei professionals and have to answer questions from them on it. I think was something that was incredibly importantly motivating for them. They knew they were going to be speaking to the kind of people who employ the kind of skills they want to have. As well as part of that challenge-based learning, we brought in classic kind of scaffolding techniques between lectures, toolkits. We had a great guest lecture from a Huawei expert in solar PV and battery. We also provided kind of halfway feedback on their posters on what they'd put together as well to help guide the direction, provide the necessary support to tackle what can be a technically complex topic. I think, it's very fair to say at the beginning, the students would not have had a great kind of awareness of the tech of solar and PV. I think they had to upskill, they had to learn a lot. And some of the students absolutely did that. And maybe one of the learnings we got from this year was to actually, we needed to start at an even more basic level when building up their skills in what solar PV and battery is. Easily done, but even just kind of starting at even simpler level than we did this year. Another thing I think works really well, another good insight, is that I think in sustainability, at least, you can find there's a lot of frameworks, a lot of kind of academic or institutional frameworks. The UN SDGs, is one of them. And this allowed us very much so to bring the UN SDGs to life, by asking the students to anchor their solutions in the UN SDGs. They were linking their posters to recognize global priorities and government frameworks as well, making sure we got that societal relevance. So they could not just learn about the UN SDGs, but actually see ideas, implementation around them. And this helped frame it for students, which I think was very, very helpful as well, and great for helping them learn the UN SDGs. I think they actually came away from that module with a far better understanding of the UN SDGs if we hadn't incorporated them into this challenge. As I say, another key moment, having the Huawei specialists in there to furnish real-world industry insights to solar PV and battery storage was absolutely, fantastic. Again, making them feel, very real, bridging theory and practice, that they could answer questions and submit questions later on to Huawei as well, was absolutely fantastic. That direct exposure to decision makers, like the judging panel, giving students that authentic feedback on commercial feasibility, and that emphasis on commercial feasibility as well, something that was great. And I think kind of one of the outcomes of this project, as kind of Niamh's touched on already, is that scalability and replicatability of this as a model, with the Enterprise Academy in its kind of brokerage role, cooperation role, working between academics and industry, matching the curricula to sector needs works really well. And that kind of template with tweaks each time to make sure it's changed up, keep it fresh, I think is a real great model to follow. One thing as well, maybe an insight, is that we had great student participation. I think it's fair to say. I think we had 175 students in that class across multiple programs, including students from EM Normandy as well. So we had French students in there taking part as well. And you see from the pictures of the award ceremony there that it was extremely busy. Everyone turned up. Everyone displayed their poster. You could hardly move at times. Had to move them back a little bit, and it gave everyone this kind of tangible takeaway from this project that they could share later on, maybe prospective employers, judging skills, etc., etc. But there was a real kind of energy and excitement at the prize giving and at the award ceremony. And thanks very much for Huawei for supplying some great prizes again, which were also highly motivating. But it was absolutely packed out that day, and some great speeches as well. So. As well, I think maybe an insight is having that kind of final judging day, judging panel day, that kind of event with high participation was really, really fantastic, and really helped make it as well. And a lot of the student feedback, kind of being able to come and share their posters with each other, share it on social media. I think there was real payback there, and they all appreciated kind of the challenge that they'd been set. So I think kind of ultimately, it's a great case study, a great model to follow for bridging that academy-industry divide. And I hope it's something that expands, keeps getting bigger and bigger. And we look forward to collaborating with Huawei again next semester on the next challenge. So look, that's my take. Hope that was helpful. And
thanks so much, Ciarán. And it was great to get that perspective, maybe from the student experience. And it was really, really wonderful to see the students on that awards day and to see that interaction with Huawei. And again, it's great to acknowledge Dr. Leslie Murphy, who co-led the initiative with yourself as well. And it's so nice then to collaborate with schools and disciplines across the university. So thank you so much. And I might hand over now to Peter Lynch, who's Senior Engagement Manager with the ICT and Fintech sectors with the Enterprise Academy, who's going to speak to some success stories with guest lecturing on the postgraduate diploma in Sports Analytics, Technology and Innovation. Over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Niamh. Hello, everybody. I'm one of the Enterprise Engagement Managers in the Academy. And I'd just like to give you a quick introduction to the sports tech program that I've worked on, its origins, and why industry guest lecturing and our adjunct faculty was so important to the program and to TU Dublin being a technological university. Collaboration and enterprise engagement is at the very heart of TU Dublin, and our schools and faculties place a high value on developing mutually beneficial relationships with our industry partners. Postgraduate Diploma in Sports Analytics, Technology and Innovation. It's a digital skillnet program that was developed to meet the growing demand for sports technology professionals in Ireland. You might be aware, but the global sports technology sector is growing at a pretty phenomenal rate, 13 billion in 2023, and it's forecast to grow at 20% per annum for the next few years. So in Ireland, as well as a number of high-profile international companies, there's a growing number of indigenous sports technology companies, startups and SMEs. And basically, owing to this growth, the industry representative body Sports Tech Ireland, in conjunction with Digital Skillnet, were able to identify the skill needs in the sector and the demand for sports technology professionals. So led by Dr. Ciarán Collins, the TU Dublin School of Biological Health and Sports Sciences won the tender for the programme. It's a level 9 programme. Delivered in a flexible blended format suited to working professionals. So a very important part of the programme were the industry guest lectures. It's a strategically important programme that addresses industry and national skills in a priority area. And by the very nature of being in a leading edge technology sector that changes year to year, national and international guest lecturers were recruited early on in the programme. This ensured that the learners on the programme had regular interactions with industry professionals, with sessions covering the practical aspects of using sports technology from a commercial perspective. From a networking and knowledge perspective, these lectures were also beneficial for our industry partners. Like all new technologies, there isn't one authority on the subject. And the industry workshops were a very useful exchange for both the learners and the lecturers. So just to give you a flavour of some of the industry guest lectures that were on the programme, we're going to start with Eddie O'Sullivan. So I don't know if there are any rugby fans in the audience, but Eddie was the Irish national rugby coach in the early noughties when the game went professional. And he had a particularly impressive track record in his time as a manager. And during the talk that he gave, he was covering particularly focused on digital innovation and sport and the use of data, particularly dependable objective data, and using that then to understand the KPIs and key skill metrics. Another one of the guest lecturers, I actually met Sam with Ciarán very early on in the programme. Very nice person to meet with an incredible CV. He's worked in key roles in the likes of Nike, ESPN and Under Armour. He's been at the forefront of sports technology, driving numerous innovations, groundbreaking innovations, and really shaping modern sports. And his session focused on a number of key techniques, including changing perspectives, flipping assumptions, and trying new approaches. He shared real examples from sports industry, including how Nike reached a younger audience and how Under Armour disrupted the athletic wear market. The participants on the program learned how questioning the status quo can spark creativity, kind of reveal hidden customer interests, and offer a competitive edge. So overall, an excellent session. So just a quick flavour of some of the guest lectures on the programme. So if you'd like any more information on the programme, I've included a link to it here. And you can either contact myself or Ciarán, or I can put you in contact with the program team for the Sports Tech program. So that's my presentation.
Thanks very much, Peter, and thanks to everybody for the questions. I think that's always the interesting part of these sessions in terms of where the conversation goes next. And I might just add to Peter's point there that I think the element of transversal skills, and I know we're reluctant sometimes to call them that, they could be power skills, they could be transferable skills, but I think that comes into play in much of this as well, whether it be in the guest lecturing piece or in particular in the challenge-based pedagogy, the enterprise challenge. So before I finish up in terms of what's coming next, and that there always is something next here at the Enterprise Academy, but I really want to thank Derek Collins very much for his time today and his enthusiasm and his contribution to the project overall. And we're so delighted to see the conversation starting as to what we might do next with Huawei. And I think just looking at the profile that Derek took us through there, we're all very excited about that, not least because we've learned so much from our first encounter, but just in terms of the size and scope and scale of the challenge and some of the themes that Derek mentioned there, which are all important, whether we're a TU or a traditional university, in terms of their societal impact, but also their learning impact, which is core to what we do every day. To Ciarán O'Carroll and to Leslie Murphy, just thank you very much for steering the ship in semester one. And this challenge wouldn't have been made possible without either Peter Lynch bringing that opportunity in. And again, we were so delighted with the scale and the scope of it. And we thank our colleagues across the partnerships function for their support as well. But hats off to Peter for bringing that opportunity. He tends to bring about 1 or 2 a week. So more of the same, Peter. And then last but not least, to Niamh, who so ably leads the Enterprise Faculty Initiative on behalf of the Enterprise Academy, but on behalf of the wider university. And I think it's not just bringing in the all-important challenges, the all-important guest lecturers, the all-important participants on our quality assurance and quality enhancement panels, the sponsorships, etc. But it's the scaffolding and the enthusiastic and motivated support that Niamh brings to it. And also, Niamh did mention our willingness to showcase and to celebrate any of these initiatives across the university, because we appreciate that it takes a lot of energy, and sometimes when you've completed the challenge or the module, then that celebration and that showcasing doesn't happen. So we're here to help in that regard. And I should mention Mary Moylan, again, a bit like Niamh in the same class, I would say. Without Mary's expertise and drive and striving for perfection, these events wouldn't happen either. So thank you, Mary. And just on to our next date in the diary, and we're very excited about our upcoming Future Talent Forum. It's our 3rd in our annual series at this point, and we're looking at next gen workforce. So rethinking learning and development for competitive advantage, and that's a very loaded line there, but there is so much change, there is so much that we need to do in terms of workforce upskilling, but also across our undergraduate and our postgraduate program. So really interesting agenda there. And then that question of our national competitive advantage, which is very much in play at the moment as we talk about tariffs, swift changes in technology, etc. So a really interesting day. And I'm very happy to report 20 days out from the event that we have a very limited number of places left. So please do sign up if you can. Niamh, for all of the work that you do. We deeply appreciate it, as do colleagues across the university. So thank you sincerely, and have a lovely afternoon, folks. We're hoping summer returns next week. But in the meantime, you know where to find us here at the Enterprise Academy, or hopefully we'll see many of you on the 17th of June. It's just a morning session, 8:30 registration, lunch at 1:30 for networking, and you'll be back at the desk hopefully in the afternoon if that's your desired course of action. Thanks a lot. Bye, everyone.